Everybody disappeared. Can you hear me? Melissa, can you hear me? It's not.
So is the audio working for anybody else as well? Can anybody hear me on?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can.
I don't know what's going on, but I can hear you. I can hear you.
Right. Okay.
Just the sound on mine. Okay.
Talk to the chairs and see what they want to do, what I have to say.
Space. Like 6 months away from when you said the next meet, I think it's the trail because she the ride for weeks.
Everyone, can you hear me from my computer? Folks who are online, can you hear me from my very faint? Okay.
Apparently they didn't think she was progressive enough. So she was not. Yeah, it's no. Yeah, so she might be talking with a couple of years ago. We shared her like She's been very consistent.
All right, let's try this again. Can everyone hear me? On my computer? Yes? Okay, great.
Yeah, that one's supposed to be.
Okay, so sorry for the circumstances, everyone. We're having some technical difficulties related to the microphones, but we'll try to make this work with the technology that we have on hand. So if you can hear me, that's great, and we'll proceed from there. So I'll start again. My name is Marco Rivero. I am the Park and Recreation Staff Liaison. I'm also joined by Tyler Remero and other DPR staff. Tyler is the Sports Commission Staff Liaison. I would like to remind our attendees online that this meeting will be recorded, and that is beginning right now. We ask that commissioners, presenters, and attendees please mute your microphones and turn off your video feeds if you are not speaking. For those attending via telephone, you can mute and unmute your microphones by dialing *6. The top toolbar contains a raise your hand feature in case a commission member or presenter has a question during the meeting. Commissioners and presenters may share their screens using the share content box above. The chat box will also be checked routinely, mainly to address logistical questions and/or issues that may arise during the meeting. During the public comment period, there will be an opportunity to recognize folks virtually first, and then we will recognize in-person attendees. As way of information, we'll be holding that public comment period at the beginning of the meeting. Each public commenter will have up to 3 minutes for public comment, and I will signal to the speaker once time is up. I also wanted to mention that we will be meeting up until 9 p.m. And then we will need to adjourn our meeting at that time. With that, I would like to turn it over to both the chairs of our Park and Recreation Commission and Sports Commission. We'll just have to project our voices.
Also just be on their phone and use the Zoom on their phone.
Might cause feedback unless.
Yeah.
Well, only with one person, if only one person has. I think it's fine. It should be fine.
Let's see if we can project first, and then we'll move forward.
So my favorite park, it depends. If I'm walking, it's that cute little park on George, if they had paved George Mason between the streets, the two little bridges on Red Walking and Buxton. I like to play at Long Bridge, and my favorite imaginary park is Newburgh Lighted.
Let's go around that table. Yeah.
Okay, I'm David Lansing. I'm also on Sports Commission. Just recently, since July of this past year. Also a member of the Arlington Girls Softball Association board for over 10 years. And I'd say my favorite park that's not softball would be Marston Park. I used to play a lot of tennis over there and enjoy like walking that area. I live close to Tuckahoe. That's my favorite park, so that's softball.
I'm Lizzie Stell. I'm new also to the Sports Commission. I have worked for Arlington Soccer for a number of years. I have two daughters. My favorite park is Long Bridge and Tuckahoe. This is my second because I live right near there and we walk around the park in the wooded area and tennis court.
Hi, my name is Calamaro and I'm brand new to the Arlington Sports Commission. My favorite park is probably Golf Park at my Gateway.
And I'm Nancy Sharkey. I'm also on the Sports Commission. I was associated with Arlington Little League as a registrar for years and years. And now my son is playing baseball for Yorktown, so that's exciting. My favorite parks are probably Ham, the school park, because they upgraded the baseball fields and put in really spectacular batting cages, which I can still like toss to my kid if I back behind the screens, which were also provided, so thank you. But for walking, it's probably Zachary Taylor Park. It's the next, like, I think Vermont and, military. It's a nice step through the neighborhood.
I'm Melissa Riggio. I'm on the Parks and Recreation Commission, and my favorite public space is probably Lover Run Felt right here. I just like the nature and everything.
I'm Lamont Chicorelli. I'm with the Columbia Heights Civic Association. And my favorite park is whichever park my 6-year-old daughter wants to go play at the playground. Because there's a whole bunch of them.
I'm Trudy Patel. I'm the chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission. And my favorite public facility is Curtis Trail right now. I'm really enjoying the interconnectedness to the Langston corridor and to Roslyn, of course, and the nature that you get out of it, but utility as well. And I'm really enjoying that these days.
Gretchen Hickey, Parks and Rec Commission, and I love Long Bridge Aquatic Center. You guys want to?
Mark Lincoln, Parks and Rec Commission, and I don't know the name of the park, but it's over near George Mason off of Yorktown High School. I don't think it's park though. Is that what?
The Harrison Street Playground?
No, it's the one that's got the little trail that goes, there's a stream there, and
Yes.
I don't remember what the other park is though. We go walking there a lot.
Hi, I'm Jill Barker. I'm vice chair of Parks and Rec Commission, and my favorite park as of today is Wendy Run, and I love to walk down the new, newly restored stairs that go down to the river, and then enjoy the National Park Service park that borders.
Adam Rasmussen, the Parks and Recreation Commission, and it's like technically my favorite park is right across from my house. It's a private park called Lion Park. But as far as public parks, I love the Arlington Loop. I run on that a lot, and I have lots of great memories of Park baseball.
Jason Despain, I'm on the Sports Commission. I live right on 4 Mile Run Trail. My favorite.
I'm Nelson. Sure. I'm hoping to join Park and Rec. And my favorite park's gotta be Barcroft and all those amazing trails that are connected along 4 Mile Run as well.
I'm Dean Foster on the Parks and Recreation Commission. And my favorite park is the Warriors and I think over the park. I'm also a big fan of the amphitheater, which we have, which is unique to the parks in the state of course.
Cole Gregory, Parks and Rec. And I enjoy living close to Tuckahoe, but when I want to wander around a bit, I like going to Gulf Branch Nature Center. It's got a nice stream, good birding. It's going to fly in the stream through the Nature Center. So with got 6-year-old, I'm going with the grandkids, they want next month.
Do you want to go online and then stuff?
Yes, are there any commissioners online that would like to provide their introduction and also your favorite park or public space? I'm sorry? Oh, yes. Okay.
Hi, Marco. This is Sarah Barlick from the Park and Recreation Commission.
Melissa, can you hear us? Melissa, can you hear us? If you'd like to unmute yourself and introduce your favorite park or facility.
Hi, I'm Melissa Ridgely, and I really appreciate everybody telling me what their favorite park is, because what I got out of it is that people like serenity, they like peace, they like nature. I live across from the Walter Reed Park. But
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Melissa?
Great. Melissa, can you repeat one more time the name of the park again?
I live across from Walter Reed Pickleball Center.
Great. Thank you. All right, I'll just go down the list here. Jacqueline Jackson.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Jackson. I'm part of the Columbia Heights Civic Association. I also live across from the Walter Reed Community Center, but I often use Longbridge, Lover Run. I think Arlington has fantastic parks and facilities.
Thank you so much. Deborah DeFranco.
Good evening. I'm Debbie DeFranco. I'm the APS liaison to the Sports Commission, and I really don't have a favorite park. I think I like where our high schools play on and just seeing any kind of youth sports in action. But I do like the dog park at Walter Reed.
Thank you. Alex S.
Hello, my name is Alex Sanders. I'm an applicant to the Parks and Recreation Commission, and I back up to Lover Run Park, so I guess I have to say that was my favorite.
Great, thank you. Gerald Brandt. Gerald Brandt. All right, we'll move on to Nia Bagley.
Nia Bagley, Planning Commissioner and Liaison to PRC. And my favorite park is, just because it's right around the corner from me, is Quincy Park. I'm there every day.
Great, thank you. And finally, Sarah Bariluk.
Yeah, hi, Marco. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I'm having some computer difficulties tonight. I'm Sarah Bariluk with the Park and Recreation Commission, and I would say my favorite park is Rocky Run Park. I live right up the hill from that park, and I enjoy visiting it almost every day when I'm walking my dog.
Great, thank you so much. And
I'll kind of live and how that informs what you have access to too. Okay, I know we quickly want to acknowledge that Parks will be writing a letter on the stormwater management zoning study. Guys, quickly, 2 seconds. This is just a pretty benign letter that I will be writing and sending out to the Parks Commissioners for approval in the next, let's say, week or so. But that's just, we have to acknowledge that, yeah, say so. I'm positive we're all gonna be writing letters on the budget as well. John and I should totally coordinate so we can send some unifying messaging among our two commissions. That's the whole point of this today. Yeah. Do you want to kick off public comment? I don't mind doing it too.
You're already.
All right, really, thank you to all of our guests tonight and our public commenters. Marco, do we have anyone signed up to start off with?
no one from Parks and Rec Commission.
And how about in person? Do we have any public commenters today? Awesome.
I think we're good.
So Marco will be leading the public comment choreography. Yeah, go ahead.
So, at this point, since we don't have any public commenters, we can move forward with the agenda. Oh, we do. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Someone online. All right. So I will go ahead and start the timer for the online public commenter actually first. Let's do that. Melissa Ridgely.
Hi, as I said, I live across from a very noisy, not serene park at all. You can see we've got about 80-degree weather this afternoon, So pickleball courts have been absolutely full. There are currently about 20 people waiting to play. The courts are full right now. Yesterday it was rainy and cold, and I went over and the parking lot was still 75% full. So that meant that when the parking lot is full with pickleball players, the people that are trying to use probably can't get in. They end up parking on the street. They park in driveways. They park on both sides of the street, which is actually illegal here on 16th Street. And this is 15 hours a day. I'm out on my porch right now trying to enjoy a cup of tea and see the beautiful moon and stars align that everybody's been talking about. And I just can't do it. It's so loud. It's so noisy. And it's from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Okay, and I work, so I have to go to bed. I can't stay up later than them just to be out here to enjoy my own house. So I don't get to enjoy this. So I appreciate all the recommendations for very serene parks, and I will be checking them out. But I want everybody to experience what I experience every day, all day, 365 days a year, no holidays, no weekends off. Somebody has to do something about sound mitigation. A year and a half to 2 years from now isn't enough, and it's going to get worse as the summer comes and weather gets nicer and you increase the number of courts closer to my house. This is less than 100 feet from my house, people. It's very difficult to concentrate. I work from home often. I know my neighbors are about to have another baby. We've got newborns on the street. We've got children. And I never get peace and quiet. I'd really like somebody to make some more consideration about what's going on today and not the future project in 2025.
Thank you, Melissa.
Comments, and I hope you stay for our later discussion items on this topic in more detail along our commission.
All right, and then our second public comment.
It's great.
I believe no one else online, I believe. Is there anyone else online who would like to comment? Jacqueline Jackson, did you have a public comment?
Yeah, I do have a public comment.
Okay.
I also live across from the Walter Reed Community Center, and I am a pickleball player. And so I understand the need. It's a great sport. Everybody wants to do it. There's a lot of demand. You guys at Love a Run, that's another good place for pickleball. But the county and the Department of Parks and Rec must start doing their due diligence on the impact to the neighborhoods when they come up with ideas like clusters. I mean, it just makes no sense to put, right now we have 9 of the 19 pickleball courts here at Walter Reed, and they want to change 6 to another 9, and DPR is telling us it's a done deal. And we're beside ourselves. We've got to come up with a way to meet the demands of the community, but also have respect for the residents. And I'll end my comment with that.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Thank you, John.
Anyone else online for public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to in-person public comment.
So, as with the two speakers who were just on, we're all members of the Columbia Heights Civic Association. They are people who are mostly they're the closest people to the Walter Reed, formerly tennis courts, now primarily pickleball courts. So they spoke to a great extent about the noise issue. However, there's a number of issues with what's going on in Walter Reed now, as well as the long-term plans the county has. Part of it has to do with, pickleball started there about 2 years ago. And just to say, as Jackie said, she's a pickleball player. We have no problem with pickleball per se. It seemed like a fun sport. A lot of people enjoy it, and we don't want to tell people that they can't play a sport they enjoy. However, the intensity of use at the facility is such that, I don't think anybody ever, I can guarantee you, nobody ever expected the intensity of use that's occurred and the growth in the sport. Like they said, it is on nice days, it's 15 hours a day from sunup this morning before sunup. People were actually there before 7 a.m. playing through 10 p.m. at night. And only they only leave when we call the county Department of Parks, I can't remember what the person is called. What's that? Rover. The Rover. We have to call the Rover almost every night to have them make people leave. And I understand that people love the sport regardless, so it tends to do. So 2 years ago when this all started and the plan for putting a cluster of Walter Reed began, nobody ever expected this. And then unfortunately, as a result, the plans, even as they stand today, with all the intended use at Walter Reed, will not meet the demand for pickleball that's being indicated by the pickleball community. The folks in the pickleball community are asking for 50+ courts in the county, okay? Right now, you've got 9 of 19 at Walter Reed. We met with the Department of Parks and Recreation last night. We've indicated a number of things that can be done. One of the things I think is most important is to recognize that other courts are going to have to be striped around the county. Unavoidable. Even if you put all of this demand at Walter Reed, it's not going to be sufficient to meet the demand. So one thing we suggested to the county was that strike courts all around the county so everybody can share in the fun of pickleball, but also share in the difficulties of living with pickleball, and then rotate play so that everybody, you play certain courts in certain days at certain times, other courts on other days at certain times. We feel that's a reasonable accommodation. There's a number of things we talked about, and we can have further conversations about this. Like, this is only the beginning of a comment period that started about a week ago with the Department of Parks and Recreation. But we're going to be continuing to advocate for this because, it's not just the noise issue. It's Walter Reed is a small community center, has insufficient parking for this need. And at this point, when the pickleball players all come, the people who are intended to use the Walter Reed Community Center cannot use the facility. They can't park there because so many people come from, and this is not an exaggeration, it's not everybody, but I want to indicate there's a significant number of people that come from Maryland, that come from DC, that come from outlying areas of Virginia that are not part of Arlington County. You can go down there on any given night and see license plates without doing a formal survey. So people are coming from all over. It really is turning into what I were calling a regional sports facility. And a big chunk of that reason is a lot of the areas around us, most recently Vienna, are scaling back on pickleball play, recognizing the issues. If you go online, what Vienna did 3 weeks ago, they scaled back the days and hours of play at their pickleball facilities, recognizing that the folks who are in the area in close proximity to those courts are heavily impacted by the play and the usage of the facility. Again, I want people to be able to play pickleball. It's fair, but it can't be all the time, and it can't just be in one place. And building this facility the way it is now, so that's the longer term. But shorter term, to what Jackie and Melissa were saying, is we're dealing with this issue now. They're not planning to build a permanent facility for another 2 years. And we need to find short-term solutions as well to mitigate noise, to mitigate the parking issue, to mitigate the impact. It's also, Walter Reed is also a senior center. And so I've talked to people who are at the senior center at night, and they've told me if they don't get there by 4:30 in the afternoon on nice days, they can't use the facilities because they can't find anywhere to park. And because there's a small parking lot in 16th Street South, which runs right next to it. I'm sorry if I'm almost out of
Yes.
16th Street South, is right next to the park. There's only parking on one side of the road. So there's truly inadequate parking to support this as it's designed. And frankly, over the long term, it will not meet the demand. So there's, like I said, it was the plan. It was people tried to figure things out 2 years ago. Those plans are going to fall short, and they're going to put an unfair and inequitable amount of impact on the people who are supposed to live in the neighborhood and who are also users of the community center. Last thing I'll say is that also the entire engagement process has been heavily slanted towards the pickleball community. They had the people in the neighborhood, our Community Heights Civic Association. We spent a lot of time leading up to the meeting on February 16th. We knocked on probably 400 or 500 doors. Nobody knew anything about the plans. The pickleball community was heavily engaged, but the neighbors and users of the Walter Reed facility, until we knocked on those doors and told people what was happening, so we could try to get people engaged. No people within the neighborhood had no knowledge of this. So, and this is another thing we talked with DPR about last night. They need to really fix their engagement process because it's really been slanted to one side. Thank you for your time. Sorry if I went over.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you listening.
And I think lessons learned too. And so really, now that we're ending our public comment period, the rest of the meeting will be conversation between staff on prepared presentation we have and our two commission and the commissioners as whole. We hope to talk with all of the public commenters after the meeting as well and bigger venues, to address additional concerns, but I think we provided a lot of commentary for our commission discussion. Go ahead, you do the.
So next is a conversation about the budgets. With Jennifer, you're.
Actually, we Jane.
Jane is gonna good because Jane is here.
Great, sorry. Okay. So hi, everybody. I'm Jane Rudolph. I'm the Director for Parks and Recreation. And I'm joined here by Becky Schmidt and Megan Lawler, excuse me, from our finance and budget team. And I did not think that I was gonna be able to come to you tonight because my son might have had a sporting thing, but he didn't do very well. So now I'm here. So I have to say that the Park and Rec, do you want me to move over there? Make it louder? Sure. Okay, so I really love this meeting, that idea that two commissions are come together and have a conversation. I think it's really awesome. I was part of the group that started the first one, and it just really feels like it's very Arlington that you all can like get together and talk about issues. And I don't know many other places that do it, so I appreciate that. And I appreciate it for me because it means I can do two of you at the same time. Because when we're done, the three of us have to leave to go to the FNRC meeting and present the budget to them. So I wish I could stay and listen to your whole conversation because I'm sure it's great, but I apologize, we're gonna have to leave. So what we do every year is we like to come to your meetings and provide an update on our budget in DPR. As you probably are aware, maybe not, the county board, the county manager provided his updated, his proposed budget for fiscal year 2024 is just operating this past Saturday, and then he went through it some more on Tuesday night, where our fees were also proposed. We're having a great night. All right, there we go. Is that the first slide, Becky? Yeah. Okay. So what we want to share with you is a bit of a timeline, talk to you specifically about the Park and Rec budget. I'm happy to answer any questions, but we kick it off as we show it starts off early. I mean, kind of budget season for us kind of never ends. We go from adoption on to the next. But as I said, he just presented his budget this past weekend. And then we move forward into what we call these work sessions. All the different departments have work sessions with the county board. And there's some other public, we have these at the end of the slideshow, some opportunities for public comment as well. And there's obviously online engagement throughout. And then the budget itself will get adopted by the board in April, and it takes effect on July 1st. That's the fiscal year for the county. So these are just kind of a big picture overview of where we're going. Next slide. So just, I know Shruti particularly in PRC, but I know in sports as well, you know, has been trying to do a little bit of like kind of Park and Rec 101. And I know different members of my team have come to you over the past year to kind of just give a sort of framing of our department. But just generally speaking, this is how we are organized. We're in four main operating divisions. We have community recreation, which does programs, park and natural resources division, which does the parks and all of our trees and natural resources, athletic facility and services, buildings, registration, sports, and then our park development division that oversees planning, design, and construction. And then we have who is supposed to be here this evening, Jennifer, who oversees we call our ASDT, which is our kind of administration of all of our department. So through that, next slide. I'll pause there. Got a little out of sort, but this is where we're very pleased with it. We're considered one of the 100 largest park systems in the country by the Trust for Public Land, which is a pretty big national parks group. And we have really been pleased for the past, I don't know, 8 years or so. We've been in the top 10. And this year we got moved up to our highest at 3. And that, which particularly was interesting because it's the first year that they included some equity measures. And it was really nice to see that we still were able to score pretty high on that. So we will keep going for it and hopefully we'll stay in the top 10. Although we've had some places like Cincinnati creeping up. So I don't know. The other ones we've been kind of connecting with. So, okay. So this is a big sort of overview of our budget and how it's divided by our different divisions. And again, at any point when I'm done, I can answer questions. We can go back. Our proposed budget, as you saw, is over $57 million. And that is an increase of about 7%. That happens a lot. Increase often has a lot to do with staffing and the other things that go along with it. And as you can see, we have a list of our number of permanent employees. I would say Becky and I have been with the county now for 10 years. It's our 10-year anniversary. And when we started, we were only way under 200 employees. Yeah. Yeah. So we've come a really long way. And obviously there's more to come, but it's really great, how our system is building. So then you can see here how we are divided in our divisions. Next slide. So, this is the revenue side of it. So there's obviously the expense side, and then which is how much everything costs. And then this is the revenue. Department is mostly driven by fees for rentals, fees for classes, fees for all the different types of things that you do with us. We don't bring in a ton of, we're not like some of our, partner Department of Environmental Services that has tons of federal transportation dollars. We don't get that kind of funding. So ours is mostly from fees, and then a little bit of this others coming in as well. And that is why our fee resolution is such a big part of our budget every year, because that lists out all the fees that come to us. And this revenue amount is basically tracking kind of close to pre-COVID numbers. We really had, obviously, as you know, we really dipped down. We are slowly coming back. I think we're basically back pretty much. And so these are some, so this has been a really funky budget year. You're going to see here first they added some things to our on our budget, but we also took cuts. So revenues in accounting and expenses did not line up. There was about an $8 million gap. You may have heard the fall they were projecting somewhere much closer to like 30 million. It seems to happen a lot. And then as the real estate assessments come back in, that gap got shrunk. We share some of the burden with APS, as you know, half of our budget goes, the county's budget goes to APS. So they also have some level of cuts as well. But as it ended up, was much less than we thought, but they still took some cuts. I will be talking that through you in a minute. But what they did provide was some additional funding. That additional funding, though, as you see in the first two, is really only, it's called one-time funding. That means it's not in the county's base budget. So there's a bunch of one-time funding, and that is funding that comes from the prior fiscal year that gets carried over. And the county seems to always have a large amount of one-time funding. That often is because of vacancy savings that they often, you all probably in your own jobs are realizing it's so hard to hire people. And so we've had vacancies across the board open for much longer across all departments. So we got $300,000 for tree maintenance in one-time funding. We got $100,000 in invasive plant management, one-time funding. Those are both things I know PRC last year had written about, as well as FNRC. I would note that the one-time funding for invasive is a little tough for us. Invasive plant removal at this level is done when we get this money that really goes to contract dollars. It doesn't go to staff time. And when you do contract invasive plant management, it's really more of a multi-year process. And so getting one-time funding can be hard for us because if we don't know that funding will be there in the future, it really could be a not great investment if we can't do that in multi-year. When we got our first $100,000 in the budget 10 years ago, it took several rounds of one-time funding for us to eventually get the base. So I hope eventually this gets to the base. The next one is this past year, we had to rebid our tree planting contract, and it came much higher than anticipated. So because it's this amount, we don't tell you guys every single time we do a new contract, but when it comes in high, we want to make sure everyone's aware of it, and the cost for trees has gone up. That funding for tree planting across the county comes out of the stormwater fund. It does not come out of the general fund. And then the last one is an overall contractual. So that's like the combination of multiple contracts. We just get flag it for you, but it's not one that stand out like the tree planting. So these are our cuts. And I will talk you through them. So our first one is in our community recreation division. Again, that's our programs anywhere from preschool to our senior centers to our we'll talk about later. And so when we initially thought there was going to be a much larger cut, we had a much bigger package. When we realized there'd be less, we did some work to do some analysis, see where we could what could be taken. And in this amount, the 240,000 consistently, when we really went back and looked over the years, this money in temporary dollars has not really been spent. And so we felt comfortable putting it up without it having a major impact to current programming. Similarly, in non-personnel dollars, we had a similar review and thought, okay, $65,000 has consistently not been spent, and so we can cut it. I say all this because I'm concerned a little bit that if we go into another cut year next year, we are going to be no longer kind of finding those efficiencies. Similarly, a reduction in temporary staff to our natural resources division. Similarly, that $80,000 has not historically been spent. And then similarly, $120,000, and that's kind of the same non-personnel dollars. We just broke it out a little differently, but in that analysis, we feel like we can absorb that with our other funding. Another cut that we're taking is a transfer. Some of you, particularly in Sports Commission, are probably aware of this transfer, which was that the county used to transfer, it's about $400,000 to APS for use of the 3 high school pools. We are no longer really in the high school pools at all, except for a little bit in the, for our swim club, and we pay for that lane time. And so we are, as APS has sort of taken over complete management of their pools, we are slowly rolling back the county financial support, as they have indicated in the past, their fees eventually should be covering the costs. So this is about half that amount. So we're kind of slowly moving our way out of being in APS pools, but luckily with the cut year, it's go towards that as well. And then the last one is, and when I botched this, new questions that you will answer it for me. But basically the county has something called credit for turnover. It's amount that basically we have, and we expect that when we have a vacancy, it takes several months to fill that vacancy. And so there's a pot of money in every fiscal year where that salary and fringe and all those things are not being spent. And as we have always seen, the percentage that we were always sort of allocating to the budget, we could take a larger percentage, and that's what this is. We still believe we will hit all of our targets, even though we take this funding. So that is a kind of a budget trick to some extent, but it is real money. It's the money that we're getting from savings from vacancies. Did I get it, Becky? Great job. Okay. You asked me to do like 5 years ago, I couldn't do it. The other area, and this is not my, so you'll see later on, there's 2 different sides of GPR. I do my operating budget presentation, but later on in April, there's a second work session that has to do with the PAYGO, the capital budget that goes every year. My colleague Eric Beach gives that presentation. He's our head of parkland development. And so we just want to make sure you also, because it is part of DPR's budget, we're aware of the projects that are moving forward in this coming fiscal year. Some of these are capitally funded, like some of these are bond funded, but some of them will also be discussed in the PAYGO work session in April. So we wanted you just to kind of see everything that we anticipate happening in FY 2024, both for the PAYGO side and from the bond side, as last year was the CIP year. Just because I think these are important projects for you to see and to see how much is actually happening in Arlington. I can tell you, for example, like.
Here's 2 questions, but Kenmore is next year.
Yes.
So Williamsburg is just, it's just the turf replacement, correct?
Williamsburg is the turf replacement, correct? You can believe it, it's been 8 years.
And is that, is there any reconfiguration happening?
No.
It's just because that was the big light, like the way the fields were laid out, we couldn't light them, in their current layout. That
We can't like them. Oh, we still can't like them. We do not have a zoning for the last, like, for field yet, but we are planning to be able to do it. We hope potentially by the next replacement, that we will have guidance that has will change that you're working with the Department of Community Planning to work on zoning changes, and hopefully that may be coming next 2 years.
It's on the agenda. It's on the agenda.
I'm happy to answer any questions about it before I go. So these are all the projects. Next slide. So this is, and then I'm happy to go back and answer your questions. So this is sort of the dates, right? So I have my work session with the board on March 16th. There are 2 public hearings. One's like listed as like a tax hearing, one's listed as like the non-tax hearing, but you can go to either. So you can go to these hearings and speak to the board. You get like 3 minutes to do yours. The PAYGO session, I think, is April 12th. I don't know, I didn't make it on here. Everything is on those 3 links, and you guys will get copies of this PowerPoint, so you can just link to everything. I'm sure it'll go to your respective websites. So this is where it's all going, but April 12th is where is when things get adopted. So
that is sort of the nitty gritty of the budget and our budget. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions or do any clarifying about any of the things that you saw up there. So just let me know.
Awesome. Thank you so much for today's presentation. And that was very quick. I think we can be just as efficient with our timing on the questions as well. I'll start off. I'm really pleased by what I'm seeing in the budget this year, and I don't have any like super surprises. I did actually look at it. Parks and Rec, we will be writing a letter for this we will aim to get out before the March 28th public comment, which is also the day of our next Parks and Rec meeting. And so we'll do this completely over email. So let's all discuss our points and let's think about some of these main things we want to write in a letter, and I'll send out an email, obviously asking for volunteers on that. Yes.
I just had a question about, in the presentation, there was the funding for natural resilience.
Yes.
Which was a new thing that we were pretty excited about. We still are excited about. What we wondered is if that is new money or money that was repurposed from other.
New money.
Okay.
It's true,
We were afraid it was a.
No,
Okay.
it's true, the timing, you or a designated commissioner and same thing with John will be invited to speak at the March 16th, and just turning bigger time, and you may want to figure out your letters sooner than 28th.
Very good point. Thank you. I forgot about that. We get that dedicated time with all of our. Okay. Yeah, so everyone, let's raise hands, and also commissioners on the phone. I think I see 2 chats there. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, in the natural resources cuts, $80,000 for temporary staff. What kind of staff are considered temporary? What are those positions that are being cut?
Well, so again, it's dollars, not temporary money. Temporary money isn't always so much about specific staff lines. It's often about sort of like money that you can put towards staff, temporary staff. So as I've noted, it's staff. So we have temporary staff in Parks and Natural Resources. We have staff that we hire often from like April to November that come in and help do like trash, help support different crews. We have temporary rangers that we have. We have a whole bunch of kind of temporary staff in nature centers. This 80,000 just historically has never been spent. So it's not really coming out of like bits and pieces are coming out from all different units. So it is not, say, for example, just from athletic field or just from the landscape crew. It's kind of unspent money.
So you're not expected to actually cut
No.
that support. It's okay.
It's not, we do not see in both places that the public would see any material change to programs or services because of this cut.
Including there's no increase in the nature center staffing, obviously.
There is not, so I know that that was both again, a PRC and an FNRC request last year, and there was no increase to the nature center staff.
Other questions from commissioners on the budget?
So I have a fee question. The turf fee, the user fee for rectangular diamond field, is that did it stay the same, go up?
Stayed the same. So because of field fund.
So field fund.
Yeah.
That was.
Are you guys talking about
That was
this?
the.
Okay, so you can ask Greg lots of questions about it when he gives you his presentation, but no, so the field fund for definitely for PRC members, you're so aware of it, is a fee that we have, is going on forever for both youth and adults who play in our fields. It's kind of like and it has changed, which you'll be talking about later with Greg, but we would never change that rate without a public conversation.
Okay.
So no, our fees this year have had very little change.
Are there any questions on the?
I'm gonna, are there any or are there any commenters from the PRC or Sports Commission that would like to speak on this item? Hearing none.
The rest of your meeting. Yeah, we always feel really blessed when you get to see you.
I'm happy to come.
Thanks.
And being efficient here, 1 minute or 1 minute off on change.
Yeah, great. I know we asked to get out of here at 9, and so I'm 8 late, so.
Yeah, we back up.
On that, Brett.
Should I go ahead and introduce the next? All right, so the next topic we have is the field fund and rectangular field. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg.
Everyone, so thanks for having me. My name is Greg Ansling. I'm the manager of sports leagues and field management for the Department of Parks and Recreation. And look forward to talking with you and explaining about field fund, its history, and some of the changes that have occurred over the last year. So just as a background, field fund was established as part of FY 2011. And it adopted a player fee. So it was an $8 resident, $20 non-resident fee that would be intended for athletic field maintenance, capital projects, and scholarships. Eventually, the scholarships went away because at that same timing, we implemented a fee reduction, our fee reduction policy, and so that overtook it. So it's gone for field enhancements and capital improvements. And then in FY 2014, it was expanded to add an additional fee of $100 per team for adult fees. And it's remained since 2014, it's remained at that same point, in that same price range of $8 for residents, $20 for non-residents and youth, and $100 for adults, adult teams. Also in 2014,
Is the $100 in addition to the player fee?
that's no, it's they don't have a player fee, they just pay a $100 team fee for adults to a charge. In March 2014, we also, there had been some conversations between decided to take that fund and split it into two. And we established a Diamond Field Enhancement Program. And that was directly to support, so the money from Diamond Field players would go to support Diamond Field directly. And then there was another fund, that general fund, which would be used for larger capital projects. And so since then, between 2011 and 2021, it was the rectangle field fund, which we called, was able to accumulate the money and convert it into the rectangle synthetic turf field at Thomas Jefferson Upper. That was just completed this past year. And then on the Diamond side, it funded about 6 projects, around $250,000. Those projects included batting cages, work done at Westover Park, a shed, and some other smaller projects. And yeah. And so this is where we currently are in our field fund. It is, as you can see, this is going back from 2018 that fees collected. And then we have our total expenses, which were about 1.3 million over the 10-year period. And now we have 810,000 still sitting in our fund to be used for projects. And then this past year, or fall 2020, the Sports Commission, the chair at that time, had formed a field fund working group because we had not evaluated the fees in such a long period, to look at it, evaluate the level and use of the existing field fund, benchmark, and then make recommendations. And so they came up with ultimately 5 recommendations that were adopted as part of the FY 23 budget this past year, was approved by the county board. Go to the next slide. And so the five items were, they updated fee structure. And so we changed the fee from $8 to $10. And then let me back up. We added a couple separate categories. It didn't matter if you were 8 years old or 16 years old, it was all the same fee. And so now we changed the fee so it increases as your use of fields increases as you get older. And then we also implemented a travel player fee, which is more often play on our better fields at better times and more often. And so there's an increased fee for there. And they also play more apt to play year round. With that, in addition to those changes to the fees, we eliminated the existing Diamond Field Fund and the Diamond Field Fund Committee to go back to one account so that it could be, and that money now is going through, we were able to fund 2 new permanent full-time athletic field maintenance staff, and that they have been hired as of this fall, or as of this past fall and winter. And then we will be using the other money for, to fund synthetic field conversions, after we pay for the 2 additional staff. We also identified to use the public spaces master plan to identify what fields can be converted, and that using the fund towards a project that would support multi-use fields, particularly since we're collecting money from the diamonds and rectangles. We wanted to be able to support all of our users. And then we will brief, which is going tonight, annually the Sports Commission about the field fund revenue. How it's being used.
Question, sure. First, I'm like a spreadsheet person, so I'm wondering if there's a way to get the breakdown of revenues by league and by age from last year to this year to see what the impact actually is. Because it would be helpful to see like what's the impact on travel players or 9-year-olds versus 8-year-olds, or it might also be helpful to see if families are paying multiple teams, and you know, if some families are just proportionally paying or something. So that would be one if we get the data. The second question would be the PSNP was mentioned here. I don't think the PSNP IEC has been since October. And I'm just wondering when that group is going to meet again, because if we're charging families more to play on the fields and the whole field utilization study, there was a public comment period last fall-ish, and then it fell off from that. And I'm wondering when that's going to happen again, so we can explain to parents, like, yeah, you're paying 2, 3, 4 times more than you used to pay to use the field, but this is what we're doing.
So first question, yes to the data. Data is obviously, you know, we just started collecting it. The fall was the first time we've had the season under this new model. So we've got to get through the spring season before then we'll have that data to be able to really share, and give a full picture, because you only pay the travel fee once per year. So while soccer may pay in the fall, lacrosse that plays in the spring is paying in the spring. So we don't really understand how much money we collected until we get through a full year.
Irina, and Jane are right. It's Scott. I'm the chair on the side, and she just emailed me saying April for the next one. We switched our cadence to every 6 months for their sake, so that we had like enough updates to guarantee meeting. What I'm hoping for this time is we're having it mid-April. She's looking at the 9th of the 20th. I would like to have the deck out of their update slides. We traditionally have been giving them like the day before or 2 days before. Since we're waiting 6 months, let's try and get it like 2 weeks before, so we can pour over questions like this. Additionally, I'd love to get that by age, maybe by gender as well, data, so that we can get some information about, are our assertions correct? Does the need to increase the fee titrate with your usage based on your age, or is it perhaps other factors like the sport you play and things like that, right? So what's most popular in this area? I don't know. And so I'd love to get into that. Yeah, so we can talk about that later if you want to email me too, but I'm looking forward to that update for parks reasons, but let's make sure that that's on the agenda too. Yeah, because I'm just wondering when, I know that there was supposed to be a second public feedback on the field utilization stuff.
There still will, yeah.
But that was supposed to happen like in February, and now it's February 20th. Please remind me if we don't add it to the agenda. Yeah. Yeah, but April is what Armina said. Let's go to that and try and get something early April. So you're going to check. Anyone else want to talk? Yes.
Yeah, I have a few questions. I'll try to keep them short. First, you had mentioned that the Diamond Field Committee and Fund had been dissolved. I guess I'm sure the words you actually used. So that money that was remaining in that there is, what's happening with it again? Where is that? I guess it's being combined with what's left from the rectangle field fund. And what is that? How is the disposition of that funding going to be decided, determined?
So
Good question. So there's kind of, it is going into one single fund now, and it would go towards, ultimately towards a multi-use athletic field, that, a major project. But there is still, per se, a little flexibility, to be able to fund smaller projects as well that are more major.
Okay, but who's gonna decide exactly
So,
with it?
Parks and Recreation, but we would, we report back to the school commission and share, and we would go, and we would also make sure it's something that the leagues would want. And, we met with the leagues multiple times during the process as we evaluated the field fund, and that would be something that we would continue.
Okay, so commitment that there will be some reach out to the user groups to determine that. Okay. Because that was collected under the expectation that it would be that there would be input from the user groups. So I'm glad to hear that will continue. Second question is, what is the specific staff that you hired in maintenance because of the field fund? Who was the staff that was hired?
So there was a team lead that was hired, and that is allowing us to develop in another staff member. I don't know the special title of it, but the team leader. And so now we can create a group, a team that is focusing on the synthetic fields. And that's something that's fallen behind over many years of not being able to regularly groom. Not that we can maintain them, but to a higher level, and not that we would necessarily to increase the playability of the fields, is what it ultimately does, the synthetic fields. And then it also takes away, instead of having to pull staff away directly from working on a diamond or a grass rectangle field, take them away to go do maintenance. You now have this dedicated staff that is working on all the synthetic fields consistently. So hopefully, we'll see less tears or areas and be able to more quickly respond to that.
So when you say it's playable,
I can add a little bit to that. The other added bonus to that is if you maintain these synthetic turf fields better, they'll get a longer life. Like Williamsburg, we're talking 8-year replacement, but with better maintenance, you get an addition. My understanding is that you can get closer to 10 if you maintain them properly.
Yeah, I think, we have several fields that make it towards 10 years. We go out of warranty after 8. So the warranty is 8, and so that's really where it starts not becoming where you need to really start looking at replacing it. But it does, instead of having, it also is a better quality at years 8 and 9, to where you're not having, holes and really pushing it, or pushing the, padding and all that comes with it.
I think that gives us enough time for material science to get better and our perceptions of synthetic fields to develop further, yeah. Okay.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I understand the argument that maybe lengthen the fields. I'm not sure if that's proven yet. I mean, but certainly, and by playability, what do you mean by playability? Because we don't close the synthetic fields to the rain. So when do we ever close any synthetic fields?
Divots and strange things do happen to these fields. I don't know how they happen, but on occasion, there'll be a hole developed in the dirt. And we'll have to call you guys like, oh my gosh, like the back to the last play because there's weird holes all of that. And so I think, I don't know enough about the technology about why that happens, but.
Right. You'll be surprised just even in the grooming where it's got a magnetic piece bar and it just rotates through and picks up all the chains, all the hair clips, everything like gum, everything. It's a just jumbled mess of stuff, and so that helps also maintain the safety from the time.
Right.
Next, another example, at Long Bridge, a month or so ago, it was spongy, for lack of a better term. And probably after it was grooved, it's no longer spongy. So if it created an issue, you would step and go, it'd be like walking on a wood fence. which if you're running and you step on them, it's not pleasant.
And what was the other position? You said one was the team lead on the synthetic side.
It was a team member.
Someone under that.
Yeah.
team,
So it's like a supervisor and then employee of that supervisor. And both work on it.
So, okay, so I just want to note it that there's only one baseball diamond that's synthetic available, and whereas there are 19 or 20 recreational ones. So the baseball players are also, and softball players are paying for this, for these two positions. And they only get to use one field and not even full time because it's also used for, I guess, adults.
Just to correct you, there's, two synthetic fields, Barcroft says.
Barcroft is the other one, correct, but, you know, this, I'm not, I'm just noting it for everyone to know that the positions, the two positions that were hired were for synthetic fields. And, that's not currently available to a lot of people who are paying the fee, into the system. So my other question had to do with what services should we be expecting because of the field fund increases? But it sounds to me like we shouldn't expect any additional services, just that the synthetic field will be better maintained when they happen.
That it's going to, as I mentioned before, it's going to free up. If now you are not taking away, before you just had one group of people that did diamonds and rectangle or synthetics and natural grass. And so whenever they went to go do synthetics, now they want to be able to do natural grass. So by the addition of those additional staff, it's also helping the natural grass fields as well, and to where we can focus more, the groups that are responsible for the natural grass can only focus on natural grass. So you do have like having an increase of 2 staff there.
Okay, all right. And then my last question has to do with I know you don't have the statistics on the actual review, but what is the department determined to the projected revenue from the field fund, the new field fund?
What is the projected revenue?
Correct.
I don't have that with me. I could take a look.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Questions, anyone else? Yeah, go for it.
All right, so the majority of the rectangular fund was used to do the PJ upper conversion from, after the rest of the balance of those funds, you have the percentages of which part of the account the contributors went into that.
No, so we collect, as you can see, starting in FY20, we moved it to where we only collect a diamond and a rectangle fee and
I've done some rough calculations and based on historical data and the fact that every individual playing in Arlington County paying into the rectangular fund, approximately 1.15 million came from one constituent group. Approximately $192,000 came from the other constituent group. The constituent group that contributed the $1.15 million to that conversion from natural grass to artificial turf, based on the information I have at hand, got zero usage out of that field from Monday through Friday last fall. And I'd like to understand where we consider that equitable allocation of the use of that field to that constituent group in the county.
So, I think we don't get into a pay per play scenario, and similar to Gunston, where you collect, we receive a donation from a single organization. They were not guaranteed any specific access to a facility, but it is for the public benefit of using that facility and building that facility. So we don't guarantee or require organizations to use a field in a single certain way, but we allocate space in a more global way, and then allow them to use it how they best feel fit, whether it's for teams or practices or alternative, however they want to use it, but we don't mandate how a single organization
So basically, the county is abrogating any review of equitable use of its own facilities in the county.
I don't know if I understand your question.
Well, if I bought something and then I was prevented from ever using it, that doesn't seem like an equitable use of something I paid for. You've got a constituent group in the county that paid for that facility, the lion's share of that facility, that gets zero use of that facility from Monday through Friday. That does not seem like an equitable share of the use of a brand new top quality facility that they pay for. I mean, how is that equitable?
So can I chime in from a sports commission perspective on this? You're actually not correct, Rec. Actually, the rec program did have it on Fridays. They did a lot of their skills clinics there on Fridays. They also had it. But the sports, when you came to the sports commission for public comment, the sports commission discussed this as a commission. And our view as a commission at that point was that it is not the place of the county to tell leagues how to allocate the space they're given to them. And Mark, also, you'd have to look at the data to see how much TJ often reviewed by rec prior to the conversion. And because of crappy data systems, ASA doesn't have that information. I've asked.
I still don't see the point of historical use. We're talking about a brand new facility that was paid for by a certain group of citizens of Arlington County that gets zero use from Monday through Friday. And I can produce the schedules that were provided. I don't know what other allocation was done on Fridays, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is this doesn't seem like an equitable use of something that a constituent group in the county paid for. And I don't understand how that seems fair at all.
I think we would all love to see this annual data parsed down to the level where we can substantially talk about what is happening from an equity standpoint.
Yeah, I completely disagree.
Okay.
I 100% disagree with that.
Yeah.
I really don't think we want to get into the range of micromanaging how the leagues allocate their space. I've spent 20 years as a rec coach. I fought for Williamsburg. At Williamsburg, as Lizzie knows, I fought to make sure that rec teams get to stay up on Williamsburg when Williamsburg was built. I've had conversations with staff. And I would love to see rec teams there, but if you're thinking of maximizing the use of the space, fill it with travel kids. And when you put the travel kids there, that frees up other space for the rec players to play. And I have no problem with that. I don't think we should be mandating to leagues how they allocate their space.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that we look at the data, the field fund data specifically, from a diverse perspective and lens in order to understand our assumption that the leagues are allocating equitably, that there is equitable use, which here based on how we're seeing the numbers presented is the assumption that we're actually making. Is that a fair analysis for the future?
Yeah, so how do you do that? There's a question of scale. You have 1,000, you have 1,500 travel players. And 6,000 rec kids multiplied by 2.
Yeah.
So, but you can't say, but what do you do with that? What do you do? Does that mean you have to allocate the space that way?
I'm not suggesting that we use this as an indicator to make a county-wide adjustment. I'm just saying that we use the data as an indicator to drive our own assumptions about these facts. We have not had a year of data usage yet to understand, are we allocating things the way that they should be? I'm just suggesting that we take an opportunity to look at the data when it comes in and how the field fund is allocated right now, if that's the correct way to do stuff. And I think it probably will be in my. Yeah. That's fair. Like, I'd love to see a follow-up presentation when that 1 year goes over. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. Anything else for discussion on this topic? Yes.
Are there any commissioners online that would like to make a comment on this particular discussion? And also just for future reference, just so that everyone that's joining online with the folks here in this room, if you are speaking in this room, just please acknowledge who you are, and then that way we can we know who's speaking. All right, don't see any speakers online.
Thank you, Greg. You all.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. Okay, so our next piece is actually 3 distinct topics. I propose to cut this meeting from 3 and you're 2 minutes. That maybe we set like a 10-minute timer and we'd be down to go up to 15 minutes for each of these topics. We can kind of just introduce them and.
Rudy, we do have a public commenter for one of these items that came in a little bit late.
Yeah. If Kelly's okay with it, would it be okay if we waited for that item to bring her in?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So we have one public commenter on the. Okay, registration topics, but maybe just to start off, we wanted to generally talk about ball recycling program, and maybe Melissa, if you'd be down with it, do you want to summarize what we got from our public commenter a couple meetings ago?
Yes. So for people online, this is Wells Ridgeo Parks and Recreation Commission. Our public commenter had commented that they live near Quincy Park and have often noticed, as I have personally, tennis balls kind of everywhere. They're starting to get into the, if you know Quincy, there's like a little stream that goes into, I believe, probably stormwater management area. There's frequently tennis balls there. And in other areas of Arlington, we'll just see tennis balls. I know Boston Pond does not having tennis balls there too, based on the apartments there. And we looked into, they had looked into ball recycling programs. So I looked into it as well. There seem to be, based on certain ball manufacturers, they have programs that you can either purchase a container, put the balls in, and then it'll be mailed to the facility to be recycled. We did look into pickleball recycling as well, because I think what they popular sport is, and it's a little harder we think, so that might be really recycling. But although the golf ball, tennis ball, indoor golf, tennis, baseball, there's spinning balls. However, they do, it does cost money to this program. So the discussion came up of, would this be a county burden? Would this be a fee-based burden for the people who are playing based on regulations? As well as maybe environmental services might need to get involved in this recycling. So that was kind of the discussion to open the question of how can Arlington play. This was like a very novel topic brought to us, to our commission, and one that we had not considered, and kind of was the impetus for this meeting. Like, has this been a topic that Sports Commission has ever had to encounter or been brought to and have a perspective on or explored at all? What do you guys think about it?
Never something we've ever discussed about, but it's a thing.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
I mean, what do you do with that? What do you do with a tennis soccer ball? Like that?
Right.
I mean, they're reached to the point they don't hold the air.
And so what Melissa's alluding to is like, you can, there are these companies that you can buy a box, and it sounds crazy, you buy a box. You make a box, and then you personally fill it up, and then you mail it back for free to postage situation. Well, like, that's on an individual basis, obviously. I think it'd be awesome if we could take this idea and charge it with staff to think about, you know, and I don't really know how we do that, but I think it's a good idea.
And I wonder if yes, that'd be good, I look for this because they already have structure about the kind of things happening in sport. I think it was just like, I don't know, I'm not kidding, I'm sorry, but 8th graders. Maybe that's their box.
Or is it like maintenance people?
Yeah,
or something, an idea for something.
Who would be the right person to pass the box, the little box? To get this program.
I think the sports, this is John Mingus, chair of the sports commission, so I get to say this. I think this is something the sports commission will take under advisement. And
amazing.
Can we reach out with you when you work out, since you turned on some of the legwork already?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
And I think it would be even cooler if we could somehow connect this to like a larger recycling effort, right? Like maybe we start off with participating in the box program, but then we become a tennis ball recycling pipeline to AWL, for our surrounding communities. How cool would that be? I don't know. Think about that. Cool, thanks. Yeah, it's awesome. Anyone else want to talk about ball recycling now?
I love that. I just think it's so, I mean, and the county is supposed to be working on a zero waste.
Zero waste, yeah.
Plan. And so to get to zero waste, you're gonna have to do a lot of recycling. Recycling, single stream recycling has been just a disaster. I mean, that's what we've seen in the glass. It just doesn't work. So I think the idea of parsing out in, into different recycling bins is gonna get more, gonna get more and more bins. And so the more that we can indicate to the, Department of Environmental Services that both our commissions are on board with that, I think that's gonna force them to really look at it and it would help them to understand that the community support is there.
And when Don and I previously talked about the agenda item, he was like, yeah, why wouldn't we do it for like soccer balls and footballs and that? I don't have any idea about demand. I don't have any idea. Business incentives of like, is that a problem, right? Like, I think that's just something we need to work between our commissions. Yeah.
I have a friend who's, this is driving this again. I have a friend who owns a soccer team, that's how many seconds, it's reach out to three family table. So what do you guys do with this stuff?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Pacers takes attitudes back,
Right.
That's another niche and another recycling event.
The only tennis ball recycling I know that I've figured out is to shelter, like dog. That's the only thing I know, and that's not efficient, and that's. No, it's great.
And they also, these ones that get chewed enough that dogs use up.
Not them ball.
And they're still a ball, like it's
Yeah.
not segment. And then I think they also put tennis ball, again, not a sports person, but like only some person number of rounds or games or. So as opposed to a soccer ball, I see you guys have this.
And
Well, they die too, but.
But we have even discussed at this last meeting about the impact of having this box at a tennis tournament would be amazing, like piloting it at like a micro situation where maybe we could do that data collection, even if it doesn't exist or we don't feel good about what we know about the market or whatever. That would even be super impactful in itself, but. Yeah, cool, okay.
From sports commission. So we should definitely explore like where are the best places, like how we could come up with the right targeted audience for like saying a lot. If it was, I'm not sure that a tournament might be the best because it would probably draw. These are all new balls that were open for a tournament versus rec play, rec league situations. There'd be a lot more people who had balls that were used for multiple games or used like from the previous time they were out, and eventually they said, oh, these are getting old, I thought it was going to be still in the trash.
Yeah, we should explore this. Okay, anyone else want to comment on ball recycling? We have 3 minutes.
Are there any commenters online from the commissions that would like to speak on the ball recycling programs? So Deborah DeFranco says schools recycle tennis balls by placing them on the end of chair legs in classrooms with special needs.
I think the point would be, yeah, give it to single source for that reuse program.
What about old pickleballs? I'm sure there are a lot of them.
Yeah. Okay, great, thank you guys. Okay, so just kick off our next one. I had someone from the public alert me that that the DPR summer camp registration link actually changed again. This is an oversight for me, not having children, being mostly a Main Street person. And I did not realize it was changed. And frankly, I'm going to say it in public, I think that it's historically a trend of certain changes we're seeing happening within DPR specifically. I've heard this more from staff, that problem among other commissions too, of changes that are happening that I think would be so important to directly get feedback from the commissions on that we had no idea about until the change happened. And so to kick us off, I want to acknowledge that Tenley Peterson's on the line and give her 3 minutes for public comment on this issue before we have our discussion. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So first I wanted to say thank you to all the commissioners for your hard volunteer work. I personally know how much it takes to give back to the community and as a volunteer, and so I appreciate your time and effort tonight. And thank you as well to the Parks and Rec staff for your service to the county. I know you all are working very hard. I'd like to share my thoughts and questions about the new summer camp registration plan. I'm worried about the recent changes to camps registration, starting registration 5 weeks later at the end of March and breaking it into 2 periods separated by a week. I understand that the changes have been introduced to solve the registration problems of past years. So I appreciate you guys for thinking creatively and trying to solve these problems. However, it seems like the county is trying to solve past technical problems with summer camp registration by making it logistically more difficult to register, therein lowering demand. As a mother to 3 kids, it is very difficult to find childcare over the summer. Parents have to make complicated spreadsheets to organize childcare for the 10 weeks our kids are out of school. For each week, we usually need to find multiple options like plan A, plan B, plan C, since we know our first choice camps are often going to fill up. It's a very complicated puzzle that takes hours and hours to figure out. Most camps in the area start registration in January and February. Arlington used to operate in this time period. Having all the area registrations happen around the same time makes the logistics of signing up slightly easier when we have our master spreadsheets. But with Parks and Rec's registration now being 5 weeks later and spread out over 2 registration periods, it becomes very hard for parents to include Arlington camps into their master spreadsheets. And this is especially so since it's hard to get into county camps. You often end up on wait lists. So parents who save some weeks in their master spreadsheet for this much later registration may not end up with anything because they just end up on wait lists. So if we don't get into these county camps at the end of March, we've missed the registrations for other camps, including early bird discounts. Other popular camps have already filled up. Camps that are closer drive are going to be filled up, and families may be left with camps that cost twice as much, and that's the main reason that they're still available by the beginning of April. So I had 3 questions that I hope commissioners can ask of county staff. One, what is the rationale for this new registration process being so much later and separated over 2 periods versus keeping it in February and using the new waiting room feature that's been introduced for other parks registration programs? A second question, what is the gap between the supply or capacity of Arlington summer camps versus the demand? And third question, what would need to be done to increase the supply or capacity to fill that gap, since childcare is such an urgent need in the community, as we all learned during the pandemic, like parents need childcare and we don't have childcare over the summer unless we sign up for all of these camps. And finally, I also want to say that I very much appreciate the county offering earlier registration to families eligible for fee reductions and kids with disabilities. I appreciate this new support of Arlington families who especially need these county services. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. And like, if you guys are open to taking the first item, I'm happy, Marco, I'd love to just take those questions and if we could get answers to those for a discussion at a other business in a park meeting, I'd be happy to give the notes over to you guys so you can have that discussion publicly. But I think Henley's questions personally are very valid here. And again, I think I'd like to make it public that I think this is a clear item that could definitely have used commission oversight at some point, and I feel like we're missing out on some items like this that go into effect, and it'd just be great to understand the intent. I agree with Henley's comment also that I took a look at it afterwards, and I appreciate that the early bird is still available for the fee reduction and for folks who need that extra early access for getting their ducks in a row. But it should be a much more community-driven process because of the reliance we have on government. So yeah, Gretchen, go ahead.
So after the last summer's crash and everything, there was a survey that went around from, Parks and Rec that had questions, although you could kind of see that like maybe the solutions were already in mind when they created the survey. But one of the questions was what a 2-part registration process. Essentially sports camps and one and all the other camps. Because gymnastics, if you're online for gymnastics, I mean, nobody else can get online to do any other thing. So the 2-part registration was to kind of solve, the technical problems of everybody trying to do all at the same time. So thinking that they're kind of 2 different constituencies.
But I think that the question is breaking it up by camp, genre, the best, way to do it? Is it by age group? Is it by other elements that would maybe make it?
Well, parents want my age group because you have, multiple kids of the age. Group.
Yeah, something for us to talk about. I'd love to hear the intent behind the changes as well and see how that metadata was contributing to. Did the survey actually say that two groups are actually better? I'd love to get that.
Well, it was asking how could we solve and would this help solve for the search.
So I'd like to see that in person. Yeah.
Why do you just let it crash? I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't hear the lights will just crash during registration.
Yeah, it was also pretty cumbersome. I wasn't having registering anybody lately, but Arlington Soccer does have some camps and I think I went in to look and I was like, this is impossible to find what I'm really looking for. So
you have to be savvy. Like I had a system, I got into the camp I wanted, but I had system.
Yeah.
And I had to have it. So I had my atomic clock going.
Oh my God. And you're one employee too, so you have like a leg up here and that.
But I had my atomic clock going. I had multiple tabs with the click and roll, and I had my numbers in all of my multiple tabs, and I had my, so when the atomic.
Sell this on YouTube.
Yeah. I told everybody, sell your strategy. All the time.
Because now I have the way to
go with you. Yeah.
I do think it's more fair.
Okay, interesting. All right.
Five, 5 weeks earlier though, or 5 weeks later, that's.
Later than that.
All right, so let's maybe add this, we can add this even to our March agenda if we can get comments fast. Here's the March agenda is like. So if you have other topics too. Okay, thank you very much for joining us, Henley, much appreciated. Sorry, any other comments on summer camps? I don't want to close if there's anything else.
I also wanted to acknowledge if there were any comments by commissioners online regarding this particular topic. Hearing none. Yes.
So do we have like a basic answer for why this switch was made? No, it alludes to the fact that it was something to do with technical issues, but is that the county's staff's or the county's position is that it was done? What was the reason why it was done?
In my previous conversations with staff, that was the addressed concern, was that they recognized the need to make the change based on last year's process. And I frankly think that there was a push to get it done quickly. And that's where we get lost in translation about what drove the changes, how were they data driven and effective, could possibly care about that. And what's the impact, what's the evaluation process, which I think get to all of some discussions as well. Yeah. But yeah, we can definitely say that the cause was last year's fiasco needing to be addressed.
The last year or the last 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last year was the opposite of a straw that broke the camel's back, like the nails that. It's on the camel's back. Okay, cool, all right. And our third topic, I really don't, I'm not, again, the sports gap. So and we've heard great public comments this morning, so I really want to open it up to folks on what we see as, and I think breaking it up into short term. I want to say short term conversation or points that we can say at future items, like when we sit on SPRCs that come up that indicate field usage should be towards pickleball. And then long-term also, meaning how can we better engage on planning for both of our commissions, because obviously we see two different sides of the coin of it, on advocating and using the community point better, I guess. So yeah, opening it up, anyone.
So this is John, we just, so in the fall, the sports commission actually got two. And in September, we had the pickleball people come and present their side, their concerns, their perspective. And as noted, they're very organized and they're very persuasive. And then the next month, we actually had the tennis people come and present their issues, concerns, perspectives. It was very useful to see both sides. What we did not get, and I apologize, that we did not think about in all honesty, we actually, given that the reaction that was going, at the say at that time of the North Fleet community, we didn't want to, we sort of made a choice to not sort of bring the community in. But hearing your stuff today, we were in the midst of writing a letter to County Board on pickleball. Public comment today, I think it's fair to say very good form, some of the language of that. In terms of taking community concern with the thing, is one of the factors that needs to be. So that's where the sports commission is. But,
Awesome. I think that's great. Thank you for taking that on and.
I know I'm not talking, just whatever information I can provide, if anybody has questions, happy to provide it.
a lot of what you said during your public comment, is, we're both through windows, so.
Anyone else want to add to that? Because I think that this is a great forum to bring in points to. Yeah.
So you mentioned Vienna, had recently, I just quickly looked it up as they were speaking, that they, a couple weeks ago, did change their hours and did certain days, certain times. And then also sent a survey to the pickleball players themselves asking, do these times work for you guys or no? I'm curious to see, we only have a couple weeks of that, it's not only inclusive, to see what effect there. If you can report from them first before we make it.
Can we make a request in that same letter to ask for data sharing with Vienna? They should be able, Zach should be able to do that.
Yeah. I'm wondering why the lights aren't, or the lights not going off and you still have to call the rover to come turn the lights off, like aren't the lights automatic?
I can't remember if they're, you can activate them at the courts or not.
Okay. So when something is gonna be rebuilt, you can hopefully even have better lights set up so that it's not.
I mean, I'll tell you, it's not in the system that we can, Moscow system that we can, a rover can access sort of the county staff from like itself. So.
Okay.
Was there should be a timer.
Yeah, is there, if it's possible, again, another thing we can make is, can we set time limits on that? But like, can it be turned off at 10 p.m.? Or at 9:30 to indicate that that's your last day, it's the last button.
Okay.
Parking meters, and after the time that you don't need them, they won't allow you to pay. Same thing with the light.
Well, I thought most of the courts, I don't know, at TJ, most of the courts there, all the lights are on time.
Right. So I
You
wonder.
gotta keep pushing the button to keep the lights on.
The question is, can you push the button and turn back to keep the lights on?
Well, I never tried that.
Yeah.
my
Things are called a rover to get folks off the court.
Yeah.
Turn the lights off.
Yeah.
That'll get them off the court. Yeah, that's a good first step.
Or schedule the rovers to stop by.
Yeah.
Remember about, there's one row.
Yeah.
And they're not always in the.
They're not working at 7.
No, they're definitely.
They're off at 5 o'clock.
Well,
So
That's the Rangers. The Rovers are first. Rangers are on during the day.
Yeah.
Rovers are, and there's more than,
They're gonna go there every day at 10 p.m. because there's only one rover.
yeah.
Yeah.
is there, so I don't play pickleball, but is there a swarm aspect to it that it's important that there be a large number of
I
people?
think it's mostly they just start a lot of people who play.
It's actually a small team game.
So, small, okay,
Yeah.
so, I mean, so what would be the downside of making every tennis court in Arlington also available with pickleball lines on it?
The tennis people would be unhappy.
We also have to be in there.
The tennis people are, and also, I'm not, let me be clear, I'm not a pickleball person either. What the pickleball answer would be is the social aspect of their game where they sort of play quick double, they play doubles, they play quickly, and so you sort of have the herd
So there is a swarm aspect to it.
a little bit.
Okay, so this is something that should be managed. If that is an aspect of the sport where you have a lot of parking spots that are required and.
The way you would a swim meet.
Right, you have to accommodate what it is, and if that's an essential part of it, that needs to be in the
One
design.
thing that I think is interesting is if you do redo a facility, whether it's Walter Reed or some other facility, I think that might have some control over like, fencing and locks and like, like at least that way, you know, potentially control some of that, but I do think like 9 courts, a lot of digging, so that's kind of, I mean, is there a way to,
Who is the pickleball community? Is there an association? Is there some kind of an organized group, a nonprofit, and like that, or is it just?
It's like the friends
It's
of
a, yeah, it's a Facebook group.
Facebook.
Friends of Arlington, Friends of Pickleball.
Yeah.
Right, so it's not an actual entity, it's just a.
They say they have 1,660 members. Like, there's a lot of people.
Sure.
1,600? I mean, that's not, anyway.
Well, it's a lot to show up in one day.
Yeah.
But, right, I mean, they're all one day, all the time.
One night.
Yeah, we don't.
The thing that concerned me was access to Walter Reed. When it's a senior center and you have programs there deliberately designed for a broad section of the community, and they no longer have access to that because of over-programming, for whatever reason, you had too much weightlifting or whatever it was.
And
It's too much.
Around the block because I can't find a spot I was left to play before, and I don't have the pressures of all the things that programming would entice me to do. Like, we should make the barriers much less.
Yeah, it's not the programming isn't replacing stuff in this community center, it's just that they can't park.
Yeah.
And seniors of all people are not gonna be walking to the community center.
Exactly. I'm all for senior parking.
Okay, so I think one big takeaway for me is that going into these SPRC meetings, when we get, in phase 7, and we're gonna like maybe think about a pickleball area because to meet the demand. We should really, as the park side, be very intent on bringing the community voice to that discussion.
What's
Yeah.
SPRC?
SPRC, sorry. So on the planning commission, they run a series of different planning outcroppings. Starts usually with a long-range planning commission joint group that is made up of select planning commissioners and adjuncts that they invite from the other commissions to join. If there's an art element, they'll bring in art people, historical people, things like that. Often, Tenley's here too. Yeah, and SPRCs are the site plan review committee, right? And that is definitely an area where, the site plan itself, if it has any park element. And lately, even when it doesn't have a park element, we're asking to be invited because we want to talk about
Public space.
yeah, public space.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's what I would say, yeah, and I think planters, I hear even that now about planters. And then we saw even in 2020, the emergence of things like streeteries and eateries and the trade-offs there between trees and all of that kind of stuff. We want to be involved. And so that's really where we stand. Tenley, please feel free to unmute if you want to talk about. I would love to also say, Tenley, that we want to have more participation from the sports commission in many of these SPRCs, I think mostly where we're getting down to what is site plan or what does phase 7 look like, may include a sports facility, yeah.
Or not, and my husband, so.
Right.
Sure, I'm just happy to weigh in briefly. I'm Tenley Peterson, as you all know. I am also a planning commissioner, and I am the chair of the SPRCs, which are all of the building projects that are happening in Arlington. And so I work with my colleagues on the planning commission to kind of figure out who the chairs are. And so when we're looking at a building project, as Shruti mentioned, a lot of times they do involve some public space element. Marco, please feel free to weigh in. A lot of times we keep things when it's a specific park amenity, we'll keep that more general during the SPRC process. But we always like to have somebody from your commission or from the sports commission at the meetings weighing in, giving big picture ideas. And then there is often usually a separate park process that Marco will lead that gets into the details of like what specific amenities are going to be part of that project. But we do talk about parks issues when we're at the SPRC level. We usually have an online comment period and then 2 meetings in person. I welcome all of you to participate as a representative at the table to let us know what you think about how the park space should be used, big picture, and then work with Marco to get into the details.
Thank you, Tenley. So just to elaborate more on that. So within certain SPRC processes, there may be an element of public space or park spaces that may be part of the incorporation of that particular site plan that is discussed at that time, as Tenley mentioned. There may also be an opportunity at a later time if there is funding or if there is consideration for a park master planning process to occur after the site plan, for that conversation to occur as well. But a lot of that high level conversation, the ideas that come out of it, a lot of it's actually sparked during the SPRC discussion. And then we carry it on even further as part of a park master plan. If we're talking about a large park space that either developers contributing dollars to, or the county is providing through various contributions. So it depends on the process that we run, but it is a very elaborate, robust community process and conversation that we have at that time.
Is it gonna be deciding what plans look like or in the designing a new parks pretty early on? And so I can do better to refer when I think that a SPRC especially would be useful to have a member on. Specifically, what they're talking about, to me, what it's down to is at these SPRCs, we set things like design guidelines, and we go through all the sections, meaning like, we have a section to talk, family lead section to talk about transportation. And all of our commissioners have been on, many of our commissioners have been on these. So, you know, we talk through all these elements. And so there may only be like half an hour of one of the 6 meetings that is for us to talk about, but that is our place before the applicant has given us a design and before, you know, things are locked in stone by that dynamic of staff and applicant, for us to say, and if you're saying that you want to have a blank field in this area in 5 years, it better not be pickleball, right? That's our time to say, right?
And I think we need to get involved, so
Yeah.
if- through you and Marco.
And Jill, we are very well connected on it, so we will do our best to bring you in more. I think that's inappropriate.
Yes.
Okay, and yeah, that's our real effort on short term, I think, and long term. Short term to me being, by the time it gets to SPRC, that's short term. Long term being things like the park planning we're gonna be doing in a couple months, things like that. That's obvious. Anyone else want to talk at all about ongoing pickleball efforts, SPRC more generally, things like that?
Well, it seems like we haven't really discussed what, you know, this is coming to a head. I mean, obviously that there are people who are really upset about this, and the people organizing on the other side, since there was the dog park issues where there's a very organized set of users.
Yeah.
Set of users.
Versus parks, yeah.
And so I'm just wondering if, you know, anybody has any thoughts or ideas on how we can play a role in helping to resolve this issue. I mean, obviously, you know, we can't make decisions about things, but perhaps we, especially since we are part of the community aspect of things, and it seems like the community, when I say community, I mean the physical resident community, not the user community, so to speak. That we can play maybe a greater role in making sure that voice is heard. And is there anything short term we can do on that versus long term?
Yeah, dog park analogy doesn't work so well here because our solution there is at SPRC to advocate for really what it is, these high residency buildings. I have a dog in a high residency building, okay? And so I use the resources of my high residency building. We ask, you're not gonna even give us planters that are sustainable and local. Have a dog run or have a dog peeing area on your site plan that is noticeably for that kind of purpose. And trying to be better about bringing that language in. That doesn't really work on the pickleball side. We can't ask the pickleball players to create their own field unless we can.
Well, actually, I mean, there was an article in the paper a while ago from New York City where there was a pickleball field provided, and then the pickleball players expanded and added their own, I don't know how you do it with string, I don't know, grass. And then and the community got so upset that the park decided to take pickleball away
but it does seem to me that we could do, like, there's a park like across from Boston that's mostly concrete anyway. You know, it seems to me we could maybe do a survey of like places.
I
That
think the
don't.
probably the biggest thing is not being near the, near houses.
Single
I mean,
family
you have
houses.
you have other sports fields and stuff, but it's not quite as noisy. It's,
It's a buffer, because soccer.
And I'd love to see like creative placement, like the way isn't there like that disc golf, whatever, near Volston Mall, for example, like one disc golf place?
It's,
I mean,
Vermont Park has.
And like, that's I think more creative placement,
Yeah.
like that one off maybe that you.
They don't make very much noise.
They don't.
I know some apartment buildings had, a former one had a racquetball court in the gym basement area. I don't know if that helps suppress noise for the residents of my pickleball. I'm suggesting SBRCs, what is your gym space going to have if it has a court of some sort? Could it be?
And that might be a reason to get you guys on more SBRCs dealing with apartment buildings too. Do you guys like that idea?
Yeah, they're getting involved.
I'm not thinking about that at all, I'm thinking about how are you gonna serve your communities, your new communities.
Are there facilities?
Right, and that, you're thinking about from the facility side, so, okay, let's consider that, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah.
I think Howard would say.
Oh,
2 points of clarification. So Walter Reed is on our must-go system. I was never using, that's why I didn't see it. It's scheduled from 4 to 10 currently. For example, tonight. So we do have the option like a rover can, either from their phone or call must-go and tell them to turn it off. Right now it's scheduled till 10. And typically on a nightly basis, especially weeknights, we have 2 rovers. Unless there's just a scheduling thing or staff members sick.
Oh, please feel free to, I mean, the timing seems to be on, so feel free to let us know if there's violations that are not being met there, because it does seem like lights are off.
Okay, I have to go back and check. I mean, actually, because Jack, if you could ask her, she's on, she called the rover almost every night. Jack, are you there still?
But is it also still, can you manually turn it on? You know?
Those lights on.
So even though it's on the Musco system, you can still manually turn it off, which is
Excuse me, this is Jacqueline. I'm the one that lives across the street. I'm also a pickleball player, by the way, so I can address a lot of the questions that you guys have mentioned earlier. But regarding the lights, they come on at dusk, and as long as you keep pushing the button, they will keep going they go on for 15 minutes, but they shut off at 10. So, but I can tell you that people will park in the parking lot and shine their headlights and play in the dark.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Jackie, for that detail. Guys, I think that needs to be added to the letter.
I heard that they were doing.
These violators are malicious, I would say, in your letter.
So I have a couple of ideas. One is maybe we should ask the rovers to come by at 10 o'clock to make sure that people are dispersing, that they're not staying around. That might be one thing, because we know if it happens every night, it would make sense for the rovers to stop by there. Second, I think you mentioned before about like Vienna. Why don't we talk to other communities in the area and see what they're doing? Clearly, they're making some changes. Let's find out what they are doing, and maybe one of those ideas could come back. I mean, we did so much of that with the DSMP and other things. We're always like, we want to look at what other people are doing. Let's do that here too.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to acknowledge some of the comments that are on the chat, which actually addresses that. So other parts of the country, Deborah DeFranco said, other parts of the country are also challenged with this debate. Perhaps look at other cities and how they're dealing with it, with possible suggestions or solutions. Jacqueline just spoke, but she said here, short-term solutions include advocating for limited hours and days, striping courts across the county to diffuse play, and impact and sound studies that are critical for this particular study.
But it might decrease the parking problem, like if
But tennis courts are not required to sign up. It is, you can choose to reserve for a fee, right? But if you walk over to a park where there's a tennis court and nobody's playing on it, there's no sign up requirement. Right, you can walk on the facility for the county.
Is there a way to, like designate the parking spots at Walter Reed, like have at least 50% of them only for seniors, or, you know, certain ones are only for pickleball?
Or the ones adjacent, like the 10 adjacent the building at least.
Yeah.
I guess, well, and certain points, I guess it's a question of, well, if something does get built there, you know.
Yeah. That's a whole, and that's a whole other thing that you guys will definitely take on.
That also gets into if you wish to increase parking, you're taking away what? No, you're gonna take away more green space.
Oh, that's you. Yeah, and we're not big advocates for garages either. So we'll balance it out. Okay. Guys, I think we should make this our last comment. If there's anything else someone wanted to add before we close the.
Just wanted to mention as well, just see here. There are not, okay, so Jacqueline says there are not enough spots to designate spots at Walter Reed. That would make the overflow onto the streets even worse. I also wanted to acknowledge if there's any other commissioners online that have any comment related to this topic. Hearing none.
And Marco, I just put into a chat, and I don't know that you want to pull it up now because we are kind of running late. We had a gentleman reach out to us. He's local. I think he's in Warrenton, and he introduced a sport called forehand strike, which is very similar to pickleball, but it doesn't use a paddle, uses a kind of a Nerf softer ball. And we like it because you don't have to have any equipment and it's quieter. So it might solve some of the noise issues, but it's, you know, I think it's going to be an up and coming activity. They've got it in several of the big cities and campuses. They're trying to play it now, but very similar in the dimensions and the size of the court needed. So we're kind of looking at this as a possible. We don't like the idea that you have to have the gloves, and I talked to the gentleman who's the creator of this, just because we don't want to have to spread them around. The gloves just give an added ability to add better spin and control of your shots, but it's similar to handball, but it's with a larger ball, and like I said, the court dimensions are the same, so it's pretty cool. Something to consider.
Yeah, and even talking about that in the letters.
I also see a comment here from John. He says, I would like to say that pickleball courts must not take up trees or field space. A lot of people who play are not residents in this area, and pickleball players crowd out the use of the courts for basketball for kids.
Let's continue to talk in the parking lot. Let's go out onto the street. And, sorry for
headlights.
Well,
we got up at pickleball.
I really thank you all for your time. We do this annually. COVID's getting a little bit like. But yeah, thank you guys. Have a good day.
And thank you everyone online for joining in, and we apologize for the technical difficulties from earlier. Thank you.